Hey everybody, it's Leeroy from Leeroy Gaming, and today I have a special build for you for the Pyromancer. It's been a build that I went through a couple iterations on. The overall goal was to bring you a Pyromancer that has a good use of firepower. After numerous testings, it basically turned into a hybrid build. So it's got firepower, but it's firepower via Anomaly power. So it'll all make sense when I go over this build with you. I promise you that. But the main goal is that you're still using your gun and you're basically doing most of your damage shooting things. So very important to note that this build uses no hacks, no cheats. So if you want a legit playthrough, something that is very, very CT15 viable, and again, you don't have to do any weird hacks to unlock all the skill tree nodes or anything like that in order to be effective, well, this is going to be a really, really fun build for you. As with all my videos, I know they're pretty long, so I'm going to have timestamps in the description below so you can jump to whichever area that you are the most interested in. We will be going over the skills, the skill nodes. We're going to be going over armor, armor mods, weapon mods, and a couple of scenarios. I'll give you some alternative on options when it comes to weapon or armor selections. I will give you a tutorial of how to actually play with this. So how to use the skill rotation, how to basically play this effectively. And as always, I'm going to show you a CT15 run through. I'll even show you my skill tree to prove that this wasn't, this is not a hack build or anything like that, like you see nowadays out there quite a bit for the Pyromancer. So again, really, really fun build. It's called the Pyromancer Bleeding Volcanic Rounds build. I hope you guys enjoy it. As always, if you enjoy this content, make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Check out our Discord if you are looking for a community that doesn't cheat, doesn't hack. The Leeroy Gaming Discord is the place for you. And if you want to come and have fun, get some runs, get some carries, again, on a stream on Twitch that does not use hacks, that does not use cheats, come to twitch.tv/Leeroy Gaming stream and come join us. It's a lot of fun. With that being said, let us go ahead and take a look at everything that is involved in this build. All right, we're going to start with the skills, and it's going to be very straightforward. The most important kind of tool here is going to be volcanic rounds. We're going to be doing everything we can to keep this up as much as possible. And then we're going to be using two other abilities mainly to increase our DPS. You're going to be doing obviously damage through heat wave, but mainly we're going to be using it to stack our AP and turn our firepower as high as we can. And Ash Blast is going to be kind of AoE CC, but it's also going to, as you see, because of the mods we use, going to increase our DPS quite significantly. All right, next we're going to look at the skill nodes. And so this build is going to be a top line Ash Breaker build, and then we're going to, right in the middle, go all the way down, so which is going to be very, very important. So key things to note: for survivability, we want to make sure we get Moth to the Flame. It's going to give your weapon leech 5%. That may not sound like a lot, but it does add up. We're going to also pick up, we want to get our cooldown of our Ash Blast as low as we can, so we get this 15%. We're going to be using rifles, assault rifles, so this 20% here is really, really nice. Mainly we're going to be looking increasing damage on elements that are targeted with Ash, which some of them will be. As we go all the way here, we just mainly want to make sure we get this burning situation. Again, it's going to give more DPS when we hit things with the Ash Blast. So we're going to have these windows, like 10-second windows, where we do a ton of damage to elements. And again, get that cooldown down. Hurt twice as long is really, really nice too. 10% extra damage and some mitigation. And along the way, all these buffs for weapon damage, as well as marked targets, which are going to be marked basically with our bullets or our other skills. So this is all going to be really active all the time. Now, what is important here is Incinerate is a nice boost, because when Burn runs out, things are going to basically be stunned and via Ash, and then you can do extra damage to it. But what we're really doing is we're coming down here, Extinction is nice, an extra 20% damage against enemies below 30% health. But what you really care about is this run out here, Inferno Bullets. It is mandatory. Your firepower is increased by 15% of your anomaly power. That may not seem like a big percentage, but it's going to add up with a mod on our weapons, and it's going to make a huge, huge difference. So again, the idea here is we are technically a firepower build, but we're going to be getting that firepower via our massive amount of anomaly power. In order to understand that, let's go ahead and take a look at the inventory. All right, it's time for armor and as well as weapons, and we're actually going to start with weapons today because the weapon we use is going to be critical to this build. So the best in slot weapon for this build out is going to be the Damascus Offering. Now this right here is basically a perfect roll, 99.4k. You don't need this high of a roll. Obviously, if you can get 90 or higher, that's awesome. But the real strength here is the fact that it comes with Anomaly Enhancement baseline. So we're actually replacing the Tier 3 mod you're going to see here in a moment. But the Tier 2 mod is receive a passive firepower boost equal to 30% of your anomaly power. Now remember that node in the skill node section was an extra 15%. So basically 45% of all our anomaly power is going to turn into firepower. This is important because right off the bat, just for being level 50, we're going to get a base 38,627 anomaly power. And almost half of that is going to turn into firepower. Now, as far as the second mod here was we absolutely need ultimate bleeding bullets. So we're going to be making things bleed. And remember, we're going to be applying burn to everything. And then anything we shoot directly, it's going to bleed. So that's going to do damage, but it's also going to proc some other mods to help us get almost nearly infinite ammo. So the combination of this having a clip size of 100 plus the replenishing ammo, as we'll see, is going to work really, really well together. And when we look at the armor, we're going to see that. So this is going to both help with DPS and also going to help us maintain our ammo so we can keep our volcanic rounds up. Now, an alternative technically that you could use is Rarog's Gaze. This hits really, really hard. It has a nice crit multiplier. You can basically get the same setup here. The problem is it only has 8 rounds. So like you have to be, there's way less margin for error here. So if you can kill things and time it correctly to keep your ammo replenishing, awesome. The hits feel really satisfying, especially since you can pierce through enemies with volcanic rounds. You can hit like multiple enemies for like huge damage. But the problem again is that your volcanic rounds are much more likely to drop off. So this is kind of like a high skill cap ceiling if you want to mess around with it or if you have a really good roll. But I would say if you can go with the Damascus Offering, it is by far the best. We're not going to be doing Moaning Winds or anything like that on this because we never want to have to swap weapons since that would cause us to lose our volcanic rounds. So those are the weapon setups, and I've tested a lot of different setups for this. Doing this bleeding bullets is the best option for this build. All right, now let's take a look at armor. We are going to be utilizing the 3-piece Acari set. So we start with the helmet. And what's important here is we're going to get that anomaly power, skill, life leech, and status power. Now I want to point something out. Some people kind of say, well, aren't you losing a ton of firepower by not having firepower gear? And the answer is no, for numerous reasons. Number one, if you look at like a maxed out firepower, it's going to be at 8,000 firepower. This is 14,000 anomaly power. And remember, we're getting 45% of our anomaly power turning passively into anomaly power. Into firepower. So even if I'm just going to like round this up to like 50% because you're going to see we're going to have some big buffs coming up. So that's basically 7,000 baseline roughly. So that's almost as much as this is. But the big difference is we're going to have so many ways to multiply our anomaly power, which will then convert to firepower, that basically we want as much anomaly power on our gear as we can so we can increase it multiplicatively with the buffs we're going to get. Okay. Now, status power is helpful because it's going to help both our bleed and our burn damage do a lot more damage. The skill life leech is going to help you stay alive. You're going to be doing a lot of basic damage over time damage from your bleeding and burning, and that's going to help you stay alive, because you're going to notice we don't really have very much defense on this build. Only 51k armor. That is very, very low. Our physical damage reduction is only 50%. So kind of squishy, but you'll notice we can take a hit pretty good just because we can heal up really quickly. As far as the mods here, we're going to get Fight Tsunami, increases the width of the firewall. And because we're going to be spamming Fire Wave and trying to mark as many mobs as possible, this is good. And Death Sentence is critical here. So this one is, whenever you Ash Blast, your weapon damage and anomaly damage against enemies affected by the skill are increased respectively by 40 and 30% for 5 seconds. This is big because for that 5 seconds, you're going to do crazy burst DPS. Also, let's not forget when we looked at the skill build out, burning situation. So when we use the Ash Blast, you're going to get an extra 45% weapon damage there. So this is going to start getting crazy. Now, don't forget that additional 30% anomaly damage is going to turn into additional weapon damage. So this mod is going to give us way more than 40% weapon damage in actuality. Now moving on to the chest piece, the armor of the Acari. Again, you're going to have lots of anomaly power. Now you're going to also get a nice boost of cooldown reduction. Cooldown reduction is huge for this build. We want to be able to spam our abilities as much as we can. So whenever possible, we do like having cooldown reduction. Now this one, you're going to get Tidal Wave. Heat Wave can be activated one more time before triggering a cooldown. That's big. You're going to be able to spam it 2 times. That's the whole goal here. Every time on cooldown. And the cooldown isn't very long. If you take a look here, it's 9.2 seconds. That's actually not bad. But what we want to do is, again, be able to spread that out, mark targets, do our burst DPS of our weapon, and then when we have new targets to hit, do it again. And then the other elements that's really, really big is strength from fire. So when you hit things with Heat Wave, using the skill grants you 10% weapon damage bonus per affected enemy for 8 seconds. So it's not unusual with the playstyle we have here to mark between 2 and 8, sometimes 10 enemies. So that's going to give you between 20 and 80, sometimes more percent firepower. And that's really, really big. Last piece of the set is the Waistcloth of the Acari. Again, anomaly power, skill, life leech, cooldown reduction. Love it. We're going to get Bolt Kindling, so deal 20% more damage against enemies afflicted by fire. Any of these kind of bonuses that say deal an extra 20% damage to burning targets or elites, etc. Those, to keep it simple, scale really, really well. The way that they're calculated tends to make a really, really big impact. So this is a no-brainer. Anomaly Echo, the reason we have it here, there are other mods I would potentially want to have that could be slightly better, but this comes with it and we can't modify both of these mods. So this is definitely not bad. You're going to have this up 24/7. And so this is going to increase your anomaly and is going to also double tap into your firepower. So even before any other multipliers from the set bonuses or the abilities, this right here is going to give you about almost 10,000 firepower base, which is not bad. Next, we have the 2 rare pieces. The gloves are first. Anomaly power, cooldown reduction, and skill life leech. This is, again, you could do status power here if you want a little bit more DPS, but I want to survive a little bit better. So this is why we're going to have skill life leech for a little bit more self-healing. Very, very important here. Lava Shot. Volcanic rounds increases your anomaly power by 25% while this skill is active, which is all the time. So I'm going to show you right now what's going to happen without doing anything else. So right now, take a look. We have 132 anomaly power and 198k. So just in your head, think 132 and 200, right? Before anything else, we're just going to enable the bullets. We're already at 176 and 221. So this went up, 44k. And this went up an extra, basically 23k. I think we were like 198. So 23k firepower just for doing that buff. And don't forget, this is going to increase our damage from our bullets, our damage, also our anomaly damage, which will be our bleed effects, our burn effects. Most other mods that will on kill, like the Bloodlust, etc., at max will give you around 30k or so firepower. This will passively give it to you all the time. But here's the crazy thing. This is not even the maximum. This is before we proc any of the sets, etc. So think of this as our baseline stats before we start buffing them. So this is going to get insane. And then we have Tainted Blood. So increases the damage dealt to enemies afflicted with bleeding by 25%. Remember what I said earlier? Like 20% damage to burning, 25% to bleeding. Those scale really, really well on this. So because anything you shoot with your gun is going to apply bleed, this is going to have them take an extra 25%. This is beautiful. And then finally we have the boots. We're going to do Anomaly Power, Status Power, and Cooldown. Again, I like balancing out Status Power and Skill Life Leech. If you're struggling to stay alive, you could get Skill Life Leech instead of Status Power, but you want cooldown reduction. Again, we want as much cooldown reduction as we can. It's very important that you roll Vampiric Mag. This is the secret to keeping your ammo up. So killing shots on enemies afflicted with bleed replenish 50% of ammo in your magazine. This is by far the best replenishment skill, but you need enemies to be bleeding, so this is why this is so very, very important. And Captain Hunter, again, this is going to scale really well with all your other buffs when you attack elites, which are going to be the main things that take a little bit to kill. So, final thing putting all this together is going to be the set bonus, Armor of the Acari Set bonus. So every enemy damaged by Heat Wave grants 50% Anomaly Power bonus for 10 seconds. So, roughly, if you think about that, this should be telling you that every enemy is going to take an extra roughly 20 to 25% weapon or firepower bonus per enemy. And this is before you do all the other multiplications. Don't forget, we have like buffs on top of buffs that are stacking on top of each other, because you got the 25% bonus from lava shots from the volcanic rounds. You got all the buffs from the set bonus. We also have, don't forget, strength from fire for more weapon damage. And last but not least, death sentence. So all of that scales. It's not unusual to have over 500,000 plus Anomaly Power mid-run. You can check your stats. And this firepower gets insane as well. So it's a really, really nice natural synergy. And again, once you get this combination, it is, from what I found, the only way to really do a firepower build and against a hyper build when you're not cheating, when you're not doing, you know, the cheats to unlock all the skill slots. So this is 100% legit. You can clear CT15, no problem. It's fun in co-op as well. And again, key thing here, very legit non-cheat build. All right, so those are going to be arm elements. Do note, if you don't have some of these elements, that like some of these, you know, fancy tier 3 options, just put in whatever best possible mods you can. The goal here is anything that's going to increase your anomaly power, it'll be good. If you are desperate and you don't have like death sentence, that's probably the most common one. Maybe you don't have strength from fire, that's another common one. I think all the other ones aren't too bad. Okay, now for the alternative mods, one really easy one is Bloodlust. So killing shots increase your firepower by 17.5k, stacks up to 3 times and deteriorates every 10 seconds. That's one you can roll. So that one isn't bad at all. Another one that's not bad is Rejuvenation. This is going to increase your firepower by a little bit over 14k, 7,000 anomaly power, and again, almost half that's going to transfer into firepower and give you some armor whenever you heal, which you heal all the time. Now do note, the way this works, I found out, is a little different than I thought. It's not as good as I used to think. So whenever you proc a heal, this will last for 8 seconds. But once that 8-second buff is done, there's a 10-second cooldown. So literally, it's not like 8 seconds up and then 2 seconds down. It's 8 seconds up and then 10 seconds down. So it has less than 50% uptime. It's got a roughly 40 to 45% uptime. So not bad, but again, not as good as I thought in the past. Because your anomaly power is so high, theoretically you could use Untamed Power as well. But again, this is a gun build. This is more like if you don't have the other mods and you know your anomaly power is getting stacked, it's going to help you with some AoE clears. So again, not bad, but this is not the focus of this build. We're really trying to get as much firepower as possible. But do note, if you're building up, if you're trying to get this build up and running, this isn't the worst option you could choose. Now, the other option that I talked about is power assimilation. So this is an option that you could put, for example, instead of the increased 25% damage to enemies. So it's going to be giving you 11,000 anomaly power per elite up. So this will also get multiplied by all your other buffs. So this could arguably be really, really good. Now, if you're in a map where there's like multiple elites at the same time, this will most definitely overtake the abilities that do a flat percentage damage, like Captain Hunter. But in situations where there are no elites on the board, or maybe only one, this may not be quite as powerful. So part of it is you can try it out, test it out, see which one you like. Again, in theory, this can be the most powerful. So, I've been even considering swapping Captain Hunter for this. Play around with it. If you have both, test out both, and then see which one works better for you. If you have one but not the other, then obviously pick whichever one you do have. Here's another one that's actually quite good. Arms and Anomaly. Critical shots increase your anomaly power by basically 20,000 for 6 seconds. Now it has a 7-second cooldown again, so we're talking about the downside is from the way these buffs seem to work. When they have these cooldowns, you're only getting that for about half the time. So in theory, over a prolonged period of time, this is the equivalent of about a 10,000, so basically half, because you get a half uptime, 10,000 anomaly boost before all the multipliers. So it's the equivalent of power assimilation, kind of, when there's only one mob out there. So not as good, but again, still a pretty good mod if you don't have, for example, Captain Hunter or power assimilation. Now, speaking of getting just straight firepower buffs, Sharp Eye isn't bad either. This one's going to give you 16,000 firepower whenever you kill things aiming down sight. Stacks up to 3 times. This can be quite good, but again, I normally prefer to get that double dip, so get your anomaly power up and then transfer it into firepower, because it's going to impact not just the gun damage, but your flame damage, your burn damage, your bleed damage, all of that. But Sharp Eye is very good. The one downside is obviously you have to be killing things. So if you're for example killing an elite, all the little ads are dead. This could drop off, for example. So again, where it ranks is going to be situational, but it's still a really good option. Another surprising option is, because you are going to be likely medium to short range, is Stare into the Barrel. When you are lining up lots of mobs, this could be quite good. So you're going to notice we use Heat Wave to kind of target anywhere between 2 and 10 mobs and then shoot them down. So this is going to give you 10,000 firepower for each enemy that's within close range. So by default, that's within 10 meters. So it's very easy to get that max stack, which will be about 50,000 firepower. Quite nice. Again, when you get further away, you may get 0 from this. So again, depending on your playstyle, this could be really good, or it could be not as effective. But again, yet another option. And then let's not forget Kingslayer. Kingslayer is also solid because, again, most of your trouble is going to be dealing with elite mobs. So here, critical hits on elites increase your firepower by 32,000. Notice it says for 6 seconds, and it doesn't say cooldown. This, based from my understanding, because there's no cooldown there, you can continuously, whenever you crit the mob, so since we're using a high rate of fire weapon, we can constantly crit and keep this up continuously. So it's kind of, whenever you're fighting those tough enemies, it's that flat 32,000 firepower. Remember, we don't have as many things that modify firepower. That's the only downside, but this is also very good. Now, I also want to throw in a special consideration in case you are dying a lot. You can, when fighting elites, potentially get ashes and leeches. The only downside is this is going to help you get a weapon leech of 40% for 6 seconds. In a pinch, The problem is you're limited by the cooldown of your Ash Blast, but it's one of the few ways you can get better weapon leech on this build. Again, not something I would recommend, but if you're desperate, you could try it out. Now, if you don't have any of those tier 3 mods, there are a couple tier 2 mods that are okay. The biggest one is Crit Stack. So critical shots build up 5-second stacking effects. They grant 3,500 anomaly power and 7,700 firepower. Stacks up to 5 times. Remember, we're turning anomaly power into firepower. So this is going to give us almost like it's a 9 to 10,000 firepower baseline per stack. You can get up to like roughly 50,000. Because you are doing the Damascus offering, you are shooting rapid fire, very high rate of fire. If you know where to aim, you can rapidly get crits off on enemies. You can crit multiple enemies with a piercing effect. You can get the stack to go nice and high. So again, it's another nice variable option if you don't have the tier 3 option. And in some cases, depending on which ones you have, this may be even better. Now, twice as hot is interesting because you're going to be spreading burn a lot. And then you're going to be spamming some abilities quite a bit. The problem with twice as hot is when you have a ton of enemies out, this could actually do decent damage. But it's not going to help your single target kill rate, which is where you struggle with this build, if anything. So while this may sound enticing because you're burning a lot of things, it's good for killing the chaff. But really, you don't want to kill the chaff with these effects. You want to be killing stuff with your bullets so you get your ammo back. So this is a bit of a trap mod. Be careful of this one. Stand Tall is another excellent tier 2 mod because you receive 9,000 anomaly and basically 13,000 firepower when you're out of cover for more than 5 seconds, which is always. And remember, the anomaly power is going to roughly translate to another 4,000 firepower. So this is about 17,000 firepower baseline for doing absolutely nothing. Definitely not bad if you are looking for tier 2 alternatives. Final recommendation, which is again for survival now, is killing enemies marked by Pyromancer with a weapon, which you're going to be doing. Increases your armor by 22,000 and your resistance by 10% for 15 seconds. You're going to be killing things constantly. This stacks up to 3 times. If you want a defensive mod that's an alternative to Damage Absorber, this is going to be actually pretty good because it's going to give you roughly 67,000 armor and 30% resistance. Or again, if you're struggling to survive, you get 52 armor baseline here without having to kill anything and 10% resistance. So these two right here are your options for defense if again you're struggling and you would like a defense mod. Alright, now let's go ahead and do a little weapon tutorial. So this is a weapon and skill rotation tutorial. And here's a perfect example of here in Archway. The goal is going to want to be is to tag multiple enemies with your abilities in order to maximize your anomaly power and then in turn your firepower. So we're going to round up enemies. And even if you get like 2 or 3, you're doing okay already. Now this is also going to do damage to them. And it's going to up your healing per second. But obviously we're melting things here. Notice I haven't even used my Ash Blast. I normally save that to when I need it. Like when an elite comes out or if I get jumped and I get a... Now my health drops all of a sudden. That's when I want to use that for. Now here comes an elite. And so again, I normally don't like going an elite one-on-one if I can avoid it. So I'll normally round up some enemies. And there we go. Get the double buff on there. Ash Blast. And now go to town on the enemy. Look how quickly it melts. And then you're going to kill the little guys for your health. Refresh your buffs. There goes the Ash Blast again. Comes up rather quickly. And just like that, everything dies. So very, very simple rotation. Again, boys, just remember to get your heat wave on everything. Save your Ash Blast for when you gotta burn down elites, or when you're surrounded and you're taking a lot of damage and you need like a, oh shit button. That's the main goal there. So that's how we do it, boys. Nice and simple. Okay, so there you had a tutorial on how to use those skills and a weapon combat form. Very, very straightforward for the most part. Just make sure to keep things marked, keep on rolling and dodging, and you'll do just fine. Obviously, if you stand still, remember, you're going to be quite squishy. because you don't by default have very many defensive mods on the setup, although you can make adjustments if you are dying a lot. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the CT15 run through of Arcway, and at the end I'll show you the damage breakdown as well. Let's take a look at the weapon breakdown again. We did 147 million here, but really what we care about is the actual breakdown. So 84.5 million are volcanic rounds. Your burn is also going to about 36 million. Heat wave directly 14 million, bleed does 11, and your actual light machine gun damage is very, very little. So really we got to keep that volcanic rounds up, and the burn is going to do a lot. The bleed is going to be supplementary, so is the heat wave. That's important to note. And for self-healing, do note the really good amount of self-healing that's going to be noted here. Over 660,000 from skill leech, 41k from weapon leech. Alright guys, so again, that is my brand new bleeding volcanic rounds build. It is, from my perspective, the most effective way to build like a firepower based Pyromancer. As you can see, Pyromancer basically built to be anomaly power monsters, and here we're just leveraging that into turning them into a really good and competitive firepower build. So again, I hope you guys enjoy that. As mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you guys like this content, if you watched all the way through, make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Check out our Discord if you like a non-cheating, non-hacking community. We're all about that. Come check me out on twitch.tv/Leeroy Gaming stream. Join the stream, get some runs, have some fun. We have a blast in there. And again, the other way, if you want to support this channel and you like cool swag as well, like these t-shirts, these mugs, some of the other items that we're putting out there, follow the link in the description to my merch store, and proceeds from that go to directly support this channel and the content I make here. So again, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.